If you want to build a big micro school, listen to today's Preschool All Stars story. Heather Hauser was a preschool teacher who got a building at the beginning of the COVID pandemic and worried how she was going to fill her classes. Once she saw the need for classes from pre-K through 5th grade, she created a micro school to help all the students who didn't want to return to in-person learning in the public school. Listen in to discover how you too can build a big micro school.
Welcome to the Preschool All Stars podcast. I am Bethany Johnson, and I'm joined today by Heather Hauser. How are you doing today, Heather?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're happy to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I'm excited to hear about your school because it sounds a little different than the normal preschool model. But first, let's go back a little, rewind, and see where you were before you decided to start all this, before you found Joy's program and before you figured this whole thing out.
Okay. It was probably about exactly a year ago. I think it was September, October. So a little bit more than a year ago.
Okay.
My preschool, I have 4 kids, all within 4 years of each other. So I had a 3rd grader, 1st grader, and 2 that were in their last year of preschool.
Okay.
And I was teaching at their preschool. And I was just kind of trying to figure out what was I going to do once they went to kindergarten. Mm-hmm. And I'd always wanted to teach, and I'd always wanted to own my own business. So one day it just kind of popped in my head, like, hey, why not do a preschool?
Yeah. Was it a private preschool that they were at?
They were at the YMCA. So
okay.
When we first moved to Boise, I had looked at private preschools, and that was another reason that gave me the idea. Was actually the same exact thing as Joy. I was a stay-at-home mom. Once we moved here and I was pregnant with twins, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to go back to work for a while.
Yeah.
So I didn't need a daycare. I just needed a preschool. And when I was looking, we live in the north end of Boise, if anyone's familiar with that. Okay. And all the preschools were really booked up, all the part-time ones. And then I would call other ones and they would say, oh, yeah, we have a preschool. Like you can drop off at 6:30 in the morning and pick up at 6:30 at night. And I was thinking, well,
not the model you were looking for.
I don't need my 3-year-old to be in school for 12 hours a day. And I also knew that they weren't actually doing school for 12 hours a day. Mm-hmm. So that was the other thing that hit me was, when we were looking initially, we were on all these wait lists. So I knew that there was a need for it. So I set to work, and funny thing was I Googled something like how to start a preschool or something like that. And immediately Joy came up. But I honestly didn't take it seriously at first because I so happen to live in Boise, Idaho. And the first thing that pops up is like Boise mom,
right. Yep.
Boise mom hits it big with preschool. And I was thinking that it was just one of those generated things where whatever city you lived in, it plugged in the name. And so
right. I
clicked on it anyway. And the more I read, the more I realized, oh, wow, this really is a local person because they were naming all these places. And so I think I joined the Facebook group and just saw people asking questions, not the All Stars group, but just the regular one. And then she was doing her seminar in October. So I signed up for that. And after I went to that and was there for a couple of days, like I was ready to go. And I was just like,
nice.
But I live in a very tiny house with 4 children, and I knew I couldn't do it out of my house. I just knew that wasn't even possible. So I started looking for quite a while for retail space, and I found something in my neighborhood, but it wasn't available, but I knew it might possibly be. So I was really on the hook for a long time, not being able to advertise because I didn't know if this was going to be the location and not knowing what I would do if that wasn't available. It was stressful for a good 7-8 months of just stress of trying to figure it out. And the whole time, Joy and all the other people on Preschool All Stars would answer every question I had. Every time I had like what I thought was just a stupid question, they would answer it or guide me in the right direction. And so finally I did get to solidify the building, and it was going to be available I can't really remember, sometime in the summer, which was perfect. And then it ended up that it was available in March, and I either had to take it or leave it. So I had to sign a lease in March knowing I wasn't going to start till the fall.
Oh, yeah.
So that was a lot of money to invest. But I was like, just do summer camps. And so I signed the lease on like March 7th, And 1 week later, all the public
COVID.
schools shut down.
Yeah.
So I was on the hook for a year for a very high,
Oh my
a very high
goodness.
lease. And just, it was such a stressful,
Oh,
it was
yeah.
such a stressful summer.
I can imagine.
So yeah, so that's how I found Joy, was on Google. And then I went to her seminar, and she's like answered so many questions that weekend. And then joining the Preschool All Stars, all the other people who had done it before me answered all my other questions.
Awesome. So what happened in March? Did you end up doing the summer programs or an online program? What happened?
Well, I don't think anyone had really talked about doing the online yet. And so I was just going forward with starting in the fall, regular school, because once again, I knew I've got 4 kids. I can't do anything with them in our small space. So I was a little, a couple of times the owner of the building was like, hey, if you don't want to do this, I can lease it to someone else. I'm like, nope, I'm doing this. I'm like, I'm all in.
Out. Nice.
So I did do summer camps. And
what ages?
Well, that was kind of what led me to my next venture. It was hard to get those young camps filled. It made sense, right? Like, who wants to put their 2-year-old in a summer camp when there's a pandemic happening?
Absolutely.
Because it's completely voluntary. But yet I had kids age 9, 7, and 5.
Right.
All of their friends still wanted to do summer camps, but everything was shut down. So I was like, you know what? I'll just do summer camps so I kind of geared certain camps towards certain ones of my kids, and the other ones would go to grandma's when it didn't fit their need. And so actually the summer camps were super easy to fill. They filled right up.
And did you do it on like a weekly basis or a monthly basis?
It was a weekly. So it was Monday through
different
Friday.
Themes?
Yes. So they were Monday through Friday. They were 3 hours, like either 9 to 12 or 1 to 4.
Okay.
There was a couple weeks where I did 2 camps in one day, and that was, I don't know if I would do that again, but maybe. I ended up getting a helper later on, and I realized how important that was to have that second set of hands, especially when you had the younger kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did. And the other thing I did with my camps was I marketed it as, this is totally outdoors, 100% outdoors. You're not going to be in closed spaces, nothing like that. So at the beginning of summer, no one was wearing a mask. And by our last camp, everyone was wearing a mask.
Yeah.
But regardless, they were all outdoors except the princess camp I did. We did some indoor stuff. But people, I think, liked the fact that they were really small, and it was like 8 to 10 kids, and sometimes there'd be siblings. So it wasn't a bunch of kids, and we were all outside. So we did art camp, bug camp. We did a park camp where we went to a different city park every day. And
cool.
We did a spy camp.
How did you deal with transportation? Did the parents drop them off at that park every day when they did that?
Yes. So, they would drop off and pick up at the park. Or one day we did like a downtown tour. So they dropped off at the Capitol building, and then they picked up at like the Grove area, downtown Boise. So
cool.
But other than that, it was pick up and drop off at the location.
Are you licensed at all, or is this unlicensed?
Yes, I am licensed and insured and all of that.
What are you licensed as? A daycare
childcare.
Childcare, okay.
It's licensed as a daycare.
Yeah.
Because there is no other option.
Yeah.
There's no other option in Boise. So
that's
what it's licensed as. And then I have first aid, CPR.
Okay. And then, so how many kids are you licensed for at a
12.
time? 12. With one helper?
Yes.
So it's like 2 adults to 1. Okay, cool.
Uh-huh.
Cool. So when did those camps run from?
It started what was going to be the first week of summer if school hadn't been canceled. So it's like June 6th, I think, was the first camp. And then I think I just took 2 weeks off where I didn't do anything to just kind of refresh and try and get ready for the fall, try and go find some preschoolers to fill my classes.
Cool.
It was every week part-time.
Awesome. And how much do you charge for that?
So it was $100, or it was $125. But then if you enrolled more than one kid, it was $100.
Okay.
For the additional kids.
Cool. Awesome.
So it was pretty much the same as what I've paid as a parent. I just kind of followed everybody else's model, I guess.
Yeah. It's so funny how different it is from place to place. Did you look at like the centers and the camps, and did you like compare around your area to find that price?
Well, most everything was closed down, honestly. Like
Right.
Parks and Rec was closed, everything was closed, but I just based it on, yeah, like the Parks and Rec. I went with the lower cost because
Okay.
I didn't have any reviews. I didn't have
Right.
anything for other than a lot of it was just parents I already know. So they
Okay.
already knew me and all of that. And then they would they would get their friends to have their kids and stuff like that. But I did go on the lower end of the prices just because I didn't have any,
Right. Yeah.
I didn't
You're
have
just
any
starting out.
experience to go on.
Yeah. So how did that bleed into your fall program?
Well, so all summer I desperately worked on filling I had 2 preschool classes. I had a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and a Tuesday, Thursday.
Okay.
The Tuesday, Thursday was 3 and 4-year-olds, and the Monday, Wednesday, Friday was 3 to 5-year-olds.
Okay.
And I mean, I did everything Joy said to do. I did, and I was just beyond. I was so stressed this summer. I mean, it was
I hear
beyond
you.
stressful.
I was right there with you, girl. I was right there with
It's like, how am I going to pay this lease? I'm in this for a year. Looking at my savings account, like I had taken money out of my own savings that I had saved when I was working to start the whole thing. And it was like quickly diminishing. And I mean, my kids and I dropped flyers. I had open houses. I was doing Facebook ads constantly and nothing. I mean, I had maybe 4 kids enrolled in the older class and none in the younger class. And it dawned on me, like, you know what? No one's going to send their 2 and 3-year-old to preschool. They're just not going to do it. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Because the way that I looked at it is if you have multiple children, then if your oldest is the one going to preschool, you're much more protective of that oldest child because you've never done it before.
Yep.
And if you have other kids older, they already had a preschool and you want to send your younger kid wherever they went, right? Like that's your school. Like I would have felt the same way with my kids had gone to the YMCA and we loved it. That was our preschool family. And so when it was my older kid, I mean, I was super nervous with him because they offered swim lessons and I was terrified he was going to drown.
Yeah.
But then like, even if one of my friends had opened a preschool for my twins, I would have been like, oh, we're already here. We love this school. We love these teachers. So that was the really hard part about it is because you either had the overprotective parents who aren't going to do that or the parents who already have a preschool.
Yeah.
And the way that it came about was at art camp. One of the girls' moms said to me one week, or actually she had tagged me on Facebook in this article from the New York Times about micro schools. And she's like, oh, you should do this. Ha ha ha. And I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? And then she approached me at art camp and was like, look, would you do this? Would you think about doing this? And at this point, I mean, it's like 3 weeks before school starts and I have 4 kids. I didn't even have enough income to pay the lease. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, maybe I would.
Yeah.
So I just went home that very day, sat down. And not to mention, like, I have a diabetic son, so he's high risk. And I was at the beginning of the summer, I had told the school, no matter what, my kids are going back to school. I don't care. I'm so tired of homeschooling my own kids. Like, I will send them no matter what. And then it was and I had talked to parents throughout the summer, and that was their feeling too. It was like, I don't care. They're going back to school because everybody was just tired of trying to get their kids to do schoolwork. Yeah. And then it was that week where that mom asked me where everybody started changing their mind. Every parent who I thought was a pretty lax parent started getting really nervous. And I was like, oh, wait, am I supposed to be scared about this?
Yeah.
So when she said that to me, I just went home and I looked at the fact that my 10-year-old or my 9-year-old at the time, my 9-year-old, my 7-year-old, they all had friends that were siblings. And then some of them had friends that were siblings my twins' age. And so that I just was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a pod for my kindergartners, a pod for my 2nd grader, and a pod for my 4th grader. And if their friends want to come, so be it. Yeah. And I mean, it was so funny because it was what I had imagined preschool being like, the need for preschool. And then it didn't happen. And I was so depressed about it all summer. And then it was within probably 48 hours of sending out that email to school parents that I knew that it was full. And then it was like the next week was parents asking me, oh, so-and-so told me you're doing this. And I was like, sorry, I'm full. And I hadn't advertised. I had done nothing. All I did was put together an email and send it out to like the parents that I knew at my kids' elementary school. And it was full within less than 2 days, probably.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was crazy. And it was like, we had a couple people drop out right at the very end, it was discouraging because the school had already set their cutoff date for you either have to be online or not. And that had already passed. So then it was harder to fill that empty spot.
Right.
I had 2 empty spots. I filled one, but I didn't fill another, which was fine. But I was super nervous coming up on the semester, whether or not people would still want to do this.
Yeah.
And everybody came back. So I was actually pretty shocked. I was thinking, well, maybe I can just do private kindergarten and a preschool if everyone goes back to school. But yeah, when I sent out, I told them they had to let me know by November, and everybody was like, yeah, we're coming back. So, yeah.
So what's the schedule now with all the different ages?
So there's 2 pods at a time. So in the morning is preschool and kindergarten. And so I teach preschool, and then I have another teacher teach kindergarten, and then and then they go from 9 to 12, and then at 12:15 the older kids come. So there's a 1st and 2nd grade pod and a 4th and 5th grade pod. It's primarily 2nd graders and 4th graders, but there's like 1 or 2 of the other grade in there because they're siblings of other kids. So so my kindergarten teacher just continues on teaching the 1st and 2nd grade pod, and then I have another guy come in and do the 4th and 5th grade pod.
Is there 6 kids in those classes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. In each pod.
Okay. So you get to stay with your preschoolers in the afternoon while the other teachers teach the older kid pods?
Yes. Well, my youngest are now in kindergarten, and so they actually love it. I mean, they just kind of like my daughter, it's a boy and a girl. So my daughter just loves the older girls she's already known because they're her brother's friends. And then my kindergarten son loves the older boys. So I have a back office, and they pretty much just hang out back there. And when it's recess time for the big kids, they always go to recess with the big kids. And whenever they have free time, they hang out with them. But other than that, they're just stuck with me in the back room, and they're actually fine with it. I mean, they'll come out and do art projects and stuff like that. But
and how many days a week is it? Is it still the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Tuesday, Thursday? Is it 2 different groups, or is it?
No, it's Monday through Friday. Yeah, I completely eliminated the Tuesday, Thursday preschool class because nobody was doing it. So I was like, yeah, skip that.
Okay.
And actually, the preschoolers do only that's the part that like throws a kind of a wrench into it all. Is like the preschoolers do only come Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Okay.
So that opens up 6 spots. So on those days, those mornings where the preschoolers are there Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So on Tuesday, Thursdays is kind of like an extracurricular day. So I have room for 6 older kids that come in the mornings, and we do Spanish on Thursday mornings. And we had soccer with like this local soccer coach. He just taught just our kids privately, so they didn't have to do the team sports with other kids. So, and then soccer ended at Thanksgiving. So we've just been doing a lot of, like my big philosophy, my core value of the school is just like a community service, like that you have a responsibility to take care of the earth and your community and the people in your community. So we do a lot of service projects. And so the older kids are really good at that, because they understand it a little bit more. We've been doing a gift drive for a family that the school counselor had given us. And so all the parents like bought gifts for them. And so last Tuesday, the older kids wrapped all the presents and got them all ready, which preschoolers and kindergartens would have never been able to do.
Yeah. But that's so cool.
But yeah, I mean, we've done a lot of community service, which has been really cool to see that the kids are really into it, and they love to do those things. We went and raked yards in the fall and stuff like that. So
that's really awesome.
They like it. They love it, and I love it. I love teaching kids that you owe it to your community to give back, or if you have something to give, you should give it. If you have extra, you should give back. So. Yeah. I don't know if they'll take it with them, but I think they will.
I'm sure they will. It's so cool that this is like, I feel like, I mean, amongst this terrible pandemic, there's this really awesome opportunity to really have a switch in our educational system because, I mean, online learning for most isn't ideal. Some kids it is, but it's giving people like you and me the opportunity to come up with different models of education that works for and then who knows, these people might want to decide that they want to be homeschooled, and just go to this homeschool pod forever, because our education system in this country is so crazy, and it doesn't work for so many people, and stuff like this really does. And we might not have known it if it weren't for this pandemic that gave us other options to do these things.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like when you look at like when the whole state was shut down, like my kids were just at each other's throats because we hadn't had play dates and we hadn't done anything. And it was just, I mean, there's 4 of them, so that's good. But it was also like the 4 of them 24 hours a day with no friends, and it was awful.
Yeah.
And so at least for my school, all these parents are very, they're all on the same page as like wearing masks and social distancing. Like they didn't travel over the holidays. They're not traveling for Christmas, and everybody's here for one reason or another. Like my son is diabetic. We have a mom we have a kid whose grandma has stage 4 cancer. And so they're all here protecting somebody that they love from getting sick. And so it's been really good that these kids whose parents are very strict have this little group of kids that they can go have. We had a birthday party in the park last week, and we've been able to have birthday parties at school and Halloween parties, and we're going to have a Christmas party because it's all just this group. So it gives them like a sense of normalcy in a time where nothing is normal.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's also been good that they haven't had any disruption. Their school's been the same from day one, where like a lot of the kids they're out of school, they're in school, they don't know when they're going back to school. So it's it's been good. And you also just see how little time you actually, because ours are only 3 hours a day, and they get everything done that they need to get done. Because there's only 6 kids in the class. They have all that attention, and there's really so much wasted time. It's kind of like when you work from home, you realize how much time you waste in the coffee room talking.
Absolutely.
It's like sometimes we're amazed that they're done with their schoolwork and we still have an hour left. It's like, well, I guess they get an extra long recess.
Right. Like they don't have to sit there for 7 hours a day in a desk to learn everything they need to know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, overall, I've just been thrilled this year that I was able to I know that this time is so hard on so many people, and it was looking as that was going to be my case too. Yeah. And I am so thankful that basically I was able to make lemonade out of lemons, because
absolutely. Yeah.
It could have gone horribly wrong.
Yeah.
All summer long, I kept saying what year to pick to open a preschool.
I know. Me too. The worst time. Me too. I was right there too. And then it ended up working out. So that's awesome. How do you think being in the All-Star group helped facilitate this?
I think it's just with anything else. When somebody else has been in your shoes and been there and they have that life experience to give you, it's been invaluable to be able to go on that group and post maybe my flyer or my website and be like, tell me what you really think. And even Joy, when she first looked at my website, she's like, I think your prices are a little expensive. But like you said, it's different everywhere. And even though we both live in Boise, I was like, it's not. Like I've had people tell me your prices are so inexpensive, and they really are. Like I base my prices off of the Y, which is the cheapest preschool in town, So I knew it wasn't that. I knew it was just the pandemic. And I know that when things get back to some sort of normalcy again, that I don't think I will have a problem filling it. But there was so much other feedback she gave me. She took a whole 45-minute live video to dissect my website and tell me all the things I needed to change. And it helped me, obviously, but it also helped other people who were just building their website or maybe needed to go and look at theirs and be like, oh, yeah, that doesn't really make sense. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's just help. Anytime you need, it's perfect to anytime you have a question, there's however many people are in the group to ask it to. And
absolutely.
Usually when you're asking the question, there's probably 50 other people who have the same question.
Yep, I know. You see it. They're like, oh, I was just going to ask this too. Following.
Yeah. Yes. So no, it's been amazing. Even before just going to her seminar that she had last October, I had no clue where to start. I've never owned a business. I always just knew I wanted to own one. And that's part of my biggest problem in everything I do is I like the decorating and I like the, this is my school and putting it together, but I hate the licensing and all the things at City Hall and all the things
Yep.
with the employment office and just all the tax stuff. I hate all that stuff.
Me too.
So I was always afraid that I was overlooking something in that department. And so to go online and be like, okay, what does this mean? And have somebody who probably likes that kind of stuff tell me, oh, you've got to make sure you do this or it's against the law. It's like, oh, good. I'm glad you pointed that out. Totally. I had no idea I needed, like, once I hired someone, that I needed unemployment insurance. And like somebody brought that to my attention. And then I get a letter in the mail like, this is the law. You have to have, I'm like, no, I just filled it out. I just signed up for it. So it was, man. I mean, I would have never been able to do it without Joy and without all the other people too. Like I would have been lost.
Yeah. That's awesome. So what are your plans for the future? Are you going to keep it like a homeschool pod next when this is all over? Or you think you're just going to try and go just preschool or what?
I don't know. I have been kind of playing it by ear just to see. I mean, now we have a vaccine. So I guess if things calm down, everybody's going to want to go back to, like at the beginning, I was feeling guilty charging my kids' parents money who always thought, once we get out of preschool, tuition's free.
Yeah, I was right there too. I felt like this sense of guilt. And I'm like, wait, no, but this is my business. This is my livelihood now.
Yeah, if I've ever mentioned feeling guilty about it to the parents, they're like, what are you talking about? Like, this is something that we desperately needed. And I know that too, because even my husband, who will stay home on Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings with my older kids, he was like, oh my gosh, he's like, does Miss Erin have this much trouble getting Harrison to write a paragraph? And I'm like, no, it's because you're the parent. Like, I did that all last spring from March to June. It was like every day, like, okay, you need to write this sentence. And then he was crying under the table. But then it's like this stranger is telling him to do it and he just does it. Yeah. It's like, So it's just, I mean, it's definitely worth the money if you have it to pay somebody else to teach your kids. Worth it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I had to stop feeling guilty about it.
There's a reason that it's people's careers to do that. Definitely.
Yeah. I have had a couple of preschool parents come to me and ask if I would teach a private kindergarten next year. So I think that might be something I would do because that's just so much easier to do because the state of Idaho doesn't require kindergarten. You can literally just say, my kid did kindergarten. So you can teach the curriculum and you don't have to do all the testing and I mean, you would do it anyway, but there's not the same, like with the fourth graders, you have to be you have to make sure that they are living up to everything that the state requires. But our local elementary just did away with half day kindergarten. And so there's been a couple of parents who were like, oh, I wanted my kid to do half day kindergarten. So would you think about doing that? And
interesting. Like, well, there you go. There's your opportunity. Fill that void. Perfect.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm hoping now that I have a group of preschoolers that most of them will be actually going to kindergarten next year, unfortunately. But I have a couple who will still be here next year. So I'll keep that up and hopefully and I actually have a wait list for preschool now.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Yeah. So that's good.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I'm going to do. I think it all depends on what happens.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you have lots of options. So that's always good. It's good to have options. Definitely.
Yeah, right now I'm trying to decide if I want to do what I did last year for summer camps, or I had another mom email me and say, hey, would you do what you're doing now and just continue it where they pay by month? And it's not necessarily a themed camp. It's just somewhere to send your kid for. So I don't know. Like,
which might be easier for you instead of coming up with a new
when
theme
she
every
said
week.
that, I hadn't even thought of it. And I was like, oh, wow, that's a really, because I spent so much money on my summer camps. I don't even know how much money I made.
Yeah.
Like, I was able to pay the lease and that was all that mattered. But above that, I don't know if I made anything because I put so much into every theme. And I was like, wow, I'm spending a lot of money at Michael's.
Yeah, that sounds exhausting. It does. I kind of had the same schedule with my summer camp as I did with my classes. So it wasn't, but I was thinking, I'm like, if I would have done a new theme every week and a new camp, I'm like, that would have been so much.
It was a lot. It was a lot to do. I always do big theme birthday parties for my kids, but it's like, that's a 2-hour party. I told my sister, I'm like, it's like I'm doing a theme birthday every single day because even though 1 week is all princesses, I have to think of a whole new 3 hours every single day. So
exactly.
I think I can make it easier on myself next year for sure.
Definitely. You live and you learn. You live and you learn. And you do what you got to do to get started too.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
So for all those women out there who are, feeling maybe where you were a year ago, figuring out what to do, thinking about maybe starting a preschool or starting some kind of homeschool pod, but not sure that they want to, jump in, what would you say to them?
I would say do it, honestly. Like, I know it's a scary time, and I probably would have said the total opposite in the summertime. But if you have the option of morphing into something that people need, then I say do it. Like, if you have the space, and because I know there's pods all over my neighborhood. They're not like, I have mine set up very much like a school. It runs like a school. So there's a lot of just like form to it. But I mean, there's people in people's houses and church basements all over the place. Yep. So if you have a space and you just want a little extra money, I mean, I say do it. And if you have to change it up and
adapt.
But honestly, I feel like the fall is going to be a whole different story than last fall, hopefully.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Me too. I know. It's crazy that we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what it's going to be like, but it's good to be able to adapt and have an open mind with whatever you're doing. And I think, if you can adapt, then you can make it work.
Yeah. And if anything, after a year of a pandemic, like, people are going to want to send their kids somewhere. So,
Totally. Yeah.
So I think it's probably a good idea. And join the All-Star group so you can ask all your questions, right?
Yeah. There you go.
I mean, I'll probably be back on there asking more questions when I do away with the pod and have to go back to preschool. I'll have like a whole other set of questions. So.
Oh yeah. There's always more questions to ask them. And it's full of a bunch of lady bosses who know the answers. That's the best part.
That's true. That is true.
Well, Heather, I want to thank you so much for joining us today and for telling your story, and wish you all the best. And sounds like you're doing awesome. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Yeah. Good luck with yours too. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. You have a great weekend.
You too. Bye.
If you'd like to have a success story just like that one, I invite you to join our Preschool All Stars. It's my exclusive membership community where you'll get mentorship from me with weekly Q&A lives, support and guidance and friendship from hundreds of women on the exact same journey as you, starting, running, and growing their preschools, and my exclusive access to Preschool University, every training and done-for-you file that you'll need for every milestone on your journey to help you start, run, and grow your preschool. We've all been there, and we've got the exact same steps that you need to go through, but we do it all very quickly so that you don't have to waste time or money doing the wrong things at the wrong time. We'd love for you to join our Preschool All Stars membership. Just go to preschoolallstars.com or click the link in the description to immediately jump into Preschool All Stars. Again, go to preschoolallstars.com and we'll see you there.